The drama surrounding the terrifying reign of Mike Tyson during the late 1980s remains one of the most intense chapters in boxing history. At a time when heavyweight boxing was filled with powerful contenders and experienced champions, Tyson stood apart as something far more frightening than a typical titleholder. He was a storm moving through the division with unstoppable momentum, leaving destruction wherever he went. Fighters who once believed they belonged among the elite suddenly found themselves questioning their courage the moment they stepped across the ring from him. Tyson was not simply winning fights. He was dismantling opponents in ways that made the entire sport pause and stare in disbelief. By the spring of 1987, Tyson had already begun shaping one of the most intimidating reputations the sport had ever seen. Still only in his early 20s, he had already captured the WBC and WBA heavyweight championships and was steadily marching toward complete domination of the division. His style was brutally efficient. He moved with explosive speed, slipping punches, cutting angles, and launching devastating combinations with frightening precision. Unlike many heavyweights who relied on a single powerful punch, Tyson attacked with relentless bursts of hooks, uppercuts, and body shots that overwhelmed opponents before they had time to think. Into this environment stepped Pinklon Thomas, a former heavyweight champion with a respected resume and a reputation for toughness. Thomas had earned victories over notable fighters and had proven himself capable of standing with championship-level competition. He had once defeated the powerful Tim Witherspoon and battled some of the division's most dangerous contenders. More importantly, Thomas possessed one of the sharpest jabs in heavyweight boxing, a weapon that had troubled many opponents throughout his career. But what made this confrontation particularly intriguing was the attitude Thomas carried into the fight. Rather than showing the cautious respect many challengers displayed toward Tyson, Thomas entered the contest with confidence bordering on defiance. Dressed in bright pink attire and backed by legendary trainer Angelo Dundee, he projected an image of calm self-belief. Dundee himself fueled the anticipation by expressing strong confidence in his fighter's abilities, suggesting that Thomas had the tools necessary to compete with Tyson's ferocious power. Tyson, guided by trainer Kevin Rooney, saw things very differently. To Tyson, any hint of disrespect inside the ring demanded a violent response. His entire fighting philosophy revolved around imposing dominance from the opening bell. He believed that once fear entered an opponent's mind, the fight was already half finished. And when the bell rang that night in Las Vegas, Tyson wasted no time demonstrating exactly why he had become the most feared heavyweight alive. From the opening seconds, Tyson surged forward like a coiled spring released. His head movement was sharp and constant, slipping inside Thomas's jab while launching vicious counters. Hooks thudded into the body, uppercuts exploded through the guard, and combinations came in rapid succession. Tyson never threw a single punch when 3 or 4 could follow immediately behind it. The pressure was suffocating. Thomas, despite his experience and composure, suddenly found himself trapped in a whirlwind of violence. Yet Thomas refused to collapse under the assault. The first round alone was brutal, but he managed to survive by clinching when necessary and firing back with his own jab. Blood began to appear around his face, swelling slowly forming beneath his eyes, but his determination remained intact. For a brief moment, it seemed possible that his experience and durability might allow him to extend the fight into deeper rounds. As the contest continued, Thomas attempted to follow Dundee's strategy of using angles and movement to disrupt Tyson's rhythm. When he managed to create distance, his jab landed with surprising effectiveness. Each time it snapped Tyson's head slightly backward, it reminded the crowd that Thomas was not merely a victim waiting to fall. He was still a former champion capable of fighting back. But Tyson was not a fighter who allowed opponents to dictate pace for long. His relentless pursuit gradually wore Thomas down. Tyson moved forward like a machine that never slowed, always cutting off the ring, always stepping into range with dangerous intent. Every exchange carried explosive potential. A single mistake could trigger a finishing combination, and everyone watching could feel the tension building with each passing minute. By the middle rounds, the physical toll on Thomas had become obvious. Swelling spread across his cheeks, and fatigue began to slow his reactions. Tyson, sensing weakness, intensified his attacks. He targeted the body with crushing hooks before driving uppercuts toward Thomas's chin. Each punch carried not just force but leverage from Tyson's entire body, hips and shoulders turning with devastating power. Despite the punishment, Thomas displayed remarkable toughness. He continued firing his jab, occasionally landing sharp counters that momentarily interrupted Tyson's momentum. For a short stretch, it even appeared as though he might be regaining some control of the tempo. But against a fighter like Tyson, temporary success could vanish in an instant. That moment arrived in the 5th round. Tyson suddenly shifted gears, exploding forward with renewed aggression. A thunderous uppercut slipped through Thomas's guard, snapping his head upward and sending shockwaves through the arena. Before Thomas could recover, Tyson followed with a crushing hook and another uppercut. The combinations came so fast they seemed almost impossible to track. Thomas staggered backward, clearly hurt. The crowd sensed the inevitable ending approaching. Tyson closed the distance again, unleashing another vicious series of punches. One final uppercut ripped through the guard, followed instantly by a brutal hook that crashed against Thomas's jaw. The former champion collapsed to the canvas, the force of the blows finally overwhelming even his legendary durability. The referee began the count, but it was clear that the fight had reached its conclusion. Thomas had absorbed punishment that would have finished most heavyweights much earlier, yet even his resilience could not withstand Tyson's relentless power. Within moments, the fight was waved off, confirming another devastating victory for the young champion. The arena erupted as Tyson stood victorious once again. In just a few brutal rounds, he had defended his titles and reinforced the terrifying aura that surrounded his name. The performance reminded the boxing world why stepping into the ring with him was unlike facing any other heavyweight of the era. Tyson did not merely beat opponents. He overwhelmed them with speed, ferocity, and a finishing instinct that bordered on predatory. For Tyson, the victory over Pinklon Thomas was another statement during a reign that would soon become legendary. It proved that even experienced champions with elite skills and strong chins could not escape the storm once Tyson began closing the distance. His ability to combine explosive offense with relentless pressure made him one of the most dangerous fighters the sport had ever seen. Years later, fans still revisit fights like this to understand what made Tyson so terrifying in his prime. It was not just the knockouts, though there were many. It was the atmosphere of inevitability that followed him into every ring. Opponents knew that sooner or later the storm would arrive, and when it did, survival became nearly impossible. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of Iron Mike's most explosive title defenses, let us know your thoughts below. Do you think Prime Tyson was the most feared heavyweight in boxing history, or was there another fighter who matched his intimidation and power? Drop a comment with your opinion, and tell us which Tyson knockout you believe was the most devastating of them all. And if you love legendary boxing stories like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe so you never miss the next breakdown of boxing's most unforgettable battles.